Hey guys, hCG Chica. Welcome to episode 25 of the hCG Diet Interviews. Today, my guest is Cassie. She's actually lost 80 pounds with the hCG protocol. As you probably saw in the intro with her before and after pictures, she looks just amazing. And so we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. I always like talking about the successes people have, but I also like talking about the struggles people faced, both before hCG, what kind of led them to the point where they needed to lose weight, as well as on the protocol itself, there can be challenges. So we'll talk about that sort of stuff today. So welcome, Cassie.
Hi, thank
How are
you
you
for
today?
doing
And
well.
also, just so you guys know, we didn't plan this. We both ended up wearing stripes. It's too funny.
Yes.
Well, why don't
What's
you just
HCG?
Yeah. Why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit, like tell us a little bit about your basic stats, where you started and where you ended with your weight and your clothing and stuff.
Well, I started out at 220.2, which was my ultimate high ever. So I started HCG then, and right now I'm at 140 on the dot. So
That's amazing. So that's just almost exactly 80 pounds, right?
yeah, 80.2, yeah.
That's amazing. And I forgot how tall you are. You're taller, right?
I'm 5'7".
5'7". Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, and so with that 80 pounds that you lost at 5'7", how did that translate into your clothing size? How did that change for you?
It changed significantly. So I started from a 16/18, forcing a 16. And right now I'm down to a 6'8". I can, just depending on the brand, I can get into a 6, and other ones I need an 8.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah, and at your height, I mean, that's really slender. You can tell in your pictures, you're all slim. So
yeah,
that's
thank you.
awesome. Um,
Definitely changed.
that's awesome. Let me see where I am here. Oh, do you happen to know, before I ask the question, about the whole inch loss? Like, some
I
of you
do.
have just, okay, so I'll ask that then.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to move on to inch loss because that's, sometimes it's like weight on the scale is it's just a number, it's like if you weigh 200 pounds, but you're size 4, great, So tell me, what were some of your most drastic inch loss changes?
Definitely my abdomen more than anything, followed by hips. So for the total on the weight, obviously was the 80.2, and I last measurements from the chest alone. I lost, let's see here, uh, sorry, about 9 inches. From the abdomen, I lost 12. From the hips, I lost 10. Thighs, I lost 3. I'm sorry, 5, and arms, I lost 3 each. So
Wow,
it was a total of about 50, something like that. No, yeah, something like that.
that's amazing. So like 12 inches from your waist,
Yes,
10 inches from your hips. So that's like a whole foot, pretty much
it
on
looks
each
ridiculous.
spot almost.
I have my original pants, and I put them on just to see, just the before and after, just for me, and it's just a significant difference.
That's amazing. And the nice thing about that too is that, when you lose inches in your waist, I think that's a pretty reliable indicator that the weight that's lost is fat
Yes.
because you don't have 12 inches worth of muscle on your waist, so that when we carry that extra flab, I mean, that's obviously fat. So just another thing, as far as hCG goes, that you're losing fat.
Yeah, and I would say that I lost no muscle because I lift weights, and I've never had an issue where I felt like my weight's decreased. My weight has always significantly increased each workout, so
Awesome. That's really good.
any muscle loss.
That's good. Now, as far as the actual hCG you used, what did you end up using?
I used the injections, and that seemed to work the best for me. I did drops originally, and I was not happy. It was just I felt sick, and there was kind of a burning taste in my mouth, and it was a really bad experience for me, and it kind of deterred me in the beginning.
Gotcha.
And I had to do injections with my pregnancies, so it was just kind of like, well, it was a lot of pain that I went through twice a day for my kids. So I didn't want to go through the pain with the hCG, but the difference in the needle size and the difference in the solution, I didn't feel anything. So that's kind of what made it for me. That was my selling point.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, I did the injections too, and like you, I was kind of nervous about doing that, but then you don't realize just how little the needle is.
Yeah,
And so you're like,
it's
oh,
significantly smaller.
yeah. And then once you put it in, like you said, you really don't feel anything if it's going in your fat. Yeah. So
Nothing at all.
that's good. That's good to hear your feedback on that. Now, so with the weight you've lost, can you give us kind of just a rundown of like how many rounds you've done, how long those rounds were?
I did 3 rounds. The first one I did was a long round, which for me it was okay, but you get to a mental state where you're like, I really need to move on to something else.
Yeah.
So the first round I started April 1st, and it was 62 days.
Okay.
The second round I did, I believe it was 30 or 31 days. And then I took a 30-day break in between there, and then I did another round, and that one I believe was 31 or 32 days on that one as well. And other than that, I did work out in between my breaks and stuff. So I did have the weight loss from there, but I still maintained the P3 diet, so it definitely helped.
That's good. That's good. And for those of you who don't know, typically the diet's usually done in like 3 to 6 week periods, and then you take a break. Some do choose, like Cassie did, to extend around a little bit. So instead of doing up to like 40 days or so, she ended up doing like an extra 20 days. And I actually do have an article kind of talking about the pros and cons on that to help you guys decide, what's best for you. So I'll link to that in the article. In the show notes for you guys to check out. But essentially, like she said, it's kind of there's a mental aspect to it where sometimes it's like maybe you could keep going, but it just gets to be like you're just kind of done. You feel kind of done, right? So usually at that point is when I tell people like it's good to stop when you feel done so that you don't start cheating and like ruin what you've achieved.
Exactly.
But on occasion, if you're highly motivated, like Cassie did do well that first round doing it longer. And my other interview, I don't remember which episode it was. I think it was like 3 or 4 or 5. I'll put a link to it. She lost 127 pounds, and she did some longer rounds. She has MS. She's like super. She was super motivated, and she stuck to the protocol, and she got it done. So in some cases, it does work.
Yeah, you can definitely do it. It's all a mental thing. I think health-wise, I had the energy. I was good to go. Just mentally, I was like, I need a change of diet. I need something to kind of change it up, and it worked for me. So.
Great. So we kind of already mentioned it a little bit, but as far as the time frame for your weight loss, when was your first round start? When did it start again?
It started April 1st
April 1st of 2000.
of 2000 this year,
This
2014.
year. Okay, so April 1st, and now it's November. You've done 3 rounds in that time, and
Yeah.
you've lost 80 pounds in that time. And you weren't actually on hCG that whole time, of course,
Yeah.
because you had your breaks.
Yeah, I took the 30-day break and then 30-ish day on and then 30-day break. So,
Gotcha.
but like I said, I did maintain the P3 diet, which helped significantly. Kind of changed my way of thinking as far as foods and stuff. I didn't need those carbs to go to and stuff. So I was working out, but it was still beneficial because I was getting the proper proteins.
Gotcha, that's great. Now, is there anything during phase two, the 500 calorie diet portion, that you found particularly challenging at all?
At first, I kind of went the harder route, I think, personally. I tried to do the meal prep and everything like that. I did everything just from the beginning, and that was kind of hard because as a person like me, I forget to defrost things. So, yes. So that was kind of rough for me. But I did start getting my way where I was pre-portioning, and I got totally off note, but I got a new wave which I could cook things from frozen. So I did it in 12 minutes, and I was good to go.
Oh,
So
good.
I can still meal plan and I can still prep, but I didn't have to cook it right then or defrost it or anything else. So that made the difference for me. I didn't stay 500 calories every day though. I do cardio a few times a week, and on those cardio days, I did have to increase calories, which was fine. So.
Yeah, can you maybe elaborate on that? Like what you did specifically for any others who might be doing that?
As far as the cardio, I would do 15 to 30 minutes on treadmill and stuff. And with that, I felt like I needed just a little bit more calorie. I didn't want to burn too quickly. I wanted the weight loss to be a steady So I would go up maybe 100, 150 tops for extra calories, but I would typically lean towards either watery stuff like broccoli. I'd have that extra little vitamins and minerals, or I would stick with the protein, and that definitely helped. Just kind of depend. I would try to keep it before, just so when I'm running and stuff, I don't feel that extra exhaustion. I
Yeah,
would already have that energy to good to go. Yeah.
running on broccoli.
Exactly. And that motivates you.
And just to clarify too, so the original protocol for Dr. Simeon's didn't have broccoli on the list of vegetables. However, a lot of people today do experiment with other vegetables. I actually did use broccoli on my final round as well. So just feedback on that. Then, what were there any other off-protocol foods you incorporated, and how do you feel it worked for you?
I did salmon. I know that's not one that's on there, but salmon, I like the salmon, and I do like the oil in it, and I feel like it's beneficial for me. And I also did a lot of cauliflower. I don't think that's on the list, but I love cauliflower, and like I said, I do crave carbs, so that was always my go-to. If I wanted mashed potatoes, I would make cauliflower mashed potatoes. If I wanted my pizza, it's my cauliflower pizza,
Gotcha.
and that helps significantly.
Great, good. Well, it's obvious that you lost a lot of weight and that I can tell by just looking at you that you lost a lot of fat. So to me, that's kind of the proof in the pudding there. So
Yeah.
when it came to eating your vegetables, did you actually like count the calories of the vegetables, or did you just eat to hunger?
The only one I actually do count is the cauliflower, because the cauliflower does have a little bit more starchy carbs and stuff like that. So I would count the calories and I would look at the carbs for that.
So you wouldn't get too carried away.
Yeah, exactly. Because I would occasionally,
Like mashed potatoes.
I would have a plate full of cauliflower rice and then my little bit of shrimp on top. No, and so I had to kind of stop myself from that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't like, I'm just not a salad person. I don't like asparagus. I desperately tried to like the asparagus and it just wasn't working for me. So I said, there's very few that I'll eat, so I'm going to stick with what I can and see how my body reacts to that. My body did perfect with it, so I just continued.
Okay, cool. So you had broccoli, cauliflower. Were there any other vegetables that you did eat, or
Mushrooms on occasion,
mushrooms?
um, onions on occasion, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. And you
Yeah.
just kind of rotate those.
Yeah, during P2, I kind of kept it the same. It was pretty much the same thing always.
I like that
P,
too.
yeah, P3, I mixed it up just because I kind of got bored. But with P2, I was like, it's working. I want to stay with what I know is working. So,
Yeah, good point. And then, real quick, you mentioned that you actually were cooking stuff from frozen, so you didn't have to defrost. Did you have a special method that you do to share, or like what do you do?
like I said, if you're looking for somebody who's, something that helps lazy people like me or who forgets that they've got frozen stuff and they have a family, that New Wave was a significant help.
What
I could
was
take
it?
it's called the New Wave.
New Wave?
It's just a little oven you have on the countertop, and it's ridiculous to say, but that thing made the world of difference for me.
Good.
When I moved in October and everything, and I'd have to take my frozen food, pop it in there. 12 minutes later, I'd have my meal. You could do your vegetables and your protein at the same time. So
Cool.
for somebody like me, it made the difference.
Great. Well, I'll put a link to that in the notes if anyone wants to check it out. So cool. New Wave. Very cool.
Like I said, it's kind of an offhand thing, but it really worked.
Yeah, it's sometimes it is those little things that make something work that are just play a huge role in something being successful. So I think that's important. And for everyone, it's going to be different.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people complain that, I have a family or I work all day and I don't have time to come home and cook these healthy meals. You can. It's not that hard to do. You just have to find different ways to do that for yourself.
Right. Yeah, like this is just a funny little story. Just talking about that where some things you can make them more difficult than they need to be, and so then you don't do it. I put this was on Facebook a little bit ago, but my mom, her whole life, when she makes salad, she would tear up the lettuce leaf by leaf by hand, and and so that's what I did. I thought that's how you make salad, and it took me until I was like 20 years old when I met my mother-in-law, and I saw her make a salad one day, and she takes the whole head of salad, and she takes a knife and just chops it all up in like 2 seconds, and I was like, how did I never know about this?
My husband and I were the exact same way. We're like, why didn't we think of this before?
Yeah, so ever since then, making a salad has been so much easier. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little things that help.
Yep. So before you started hCG, was there like a low point that you reached or, some story that you can recall that just made you realize that you needed to make a change or you needed to find something to help you?
Absolutely. So I gained my weight during my pregnancies. I was hit by a car when I was pregnant with my first son. Steroids. I gained a significant amount of weight in a very short time. Had my son, lost a little bit, nothing significant. I immediately got pregnant a year later, and I had my second son, and I lost my best friend at that time. And my grandfather was my everything,
Wow.
and I just went through the worst postpartum depression. I didn't care. I wanted to, just feed my feelings. That was the happy place to go to,
Sure.
and I just ballooned, of course.
Yeah.
And my husband kind of, brought it to my attention. He's like, you're not happy. This is just not, something's not working for you. What can we do to help you out and everything?
Hmm.
And so we talked about it and stuff. And then he was like, working out, you're gonna feel better. This is what you've always done. You've always been athletic.
Yeah.
Let's start doing this together. So together we started working out and everything. I did lose a little bit. Definitely not what I was before pregnancies. And then I got pregnant again.
Oh,
Yes. So when I got pregnant again, it just was a total blow. And I was just like, how do I keep doing this? And my husband deployed during this pregnancy. I had my daughter when he was deployed. It was just, it's an emotional time.
yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah. And so whenever he came back and everything again, it was a different dynamic. A third child, he was working a lot. So again, was a very, very low point. It was just not a lot of motivation to do anything.
Gotcha.
And then he brought up wanting to go out for our 5th year anniversary.
Yeah.
So that was the motivator. And I started working out. I did, the beach body programs and stuff. And I did lose some. Um, but as soon as we hit our vacation, it was like, okay, I did what I needed to. I'm done.
Mhm.
And then when he deployed, I was like, he's deployed again right now. And I said, you know what? There's nothing holding me back. There's no excuses. So this is my me time. This is my year to do what I need to do to find myself. And it's worked like a charm. I've researched hCG for a very long time, and I finally decided, okay, we'll do it.
That's good. And it's good too because it does take, I feel like to do this protocol and feel comfortable with it, I think it does require a certain amount of research, you know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, thanks for sharing that story too, because I think it will resonate with a lot of, other moms out there because it may not be the exact same story, but there's parts of it that it's like, yeah, I went through something similar and, like you said, postpartum is pretty serious, Um, and like you said, when you're going through stuff like that, you don't care. It's like, and if you don't care, you can't worry about losing weight or eating right or, I've been
You
through
feel
pretty,
those emotions, so you just don't care. You just don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah, Do you feel like once, like, because you mentioned how you lost weight for your 5 year anniversary, but then of course that came and went, so then like the motivation was gone. Do you feel like you had to kind of make a mental change in your head in order to lose weight and keep it off?
Definitely.
How did you have to change the way you thought about weight loss or eating?
So that kind of happened for me in round two, actually. In my mind, it was one of those, I'm gonna have a cheat day once or twice a week because, I'm losing weight fast, so, who cares?
Yeah.
And in that round, I was like, this isn't worth it. I'm going up and I'm coming down, but I'm not changing my thinking. So my thinking is I'm gonna lose this weight so I can have this terrible, terrible food. And I kind of realized right as I was finishing up too, I was like, this isn't going to work. If I want to keep working out like I'm going to keep working out and I want to keep going, I need to stick with the proper diet. This is going to be a lifestyle change. I don't want it to be something like when he comes back, well, I'm done. I've finished my thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm loving the gym. I'm loving the food, which definitely helps. And I'm giving myself options, which is the biggest change. I think that's what's made the lifestyle change for me. Is before it was, I want those carbs, I want those carbs.
Yeah.
Well, now I have my cauliflower.
Cool.
Or I really want those sugars, now I have my stevia. There's different options. If you want it, you can do it. Just find your option or find your moderation, which is key.
Right. And I'm really glad you mentioned that because I agree. Don't deny, replace. Um,
Yes.
and like you said, that's exactly because I had to make that transformation too. because like you, it was that thing. You're like, oh well, like on a day I felt thin, I would be like, oh, I can eat more today because I feel thin, you know.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
yeah, like it's like the reward is that you get to eat more. And I too had to change that thinking. That really this it's all about just being in moderation all the time, and I had to just change my mind in that way. And as well, like you said, getting away from the mentality that you're like being like denied something by making a change, and instead of just thinking about, oh, these are all the things that I can't have, and that can be frustrating, but actually when you shift that focus, and you start thinking about, yeah, what can I have, um,
Exactly.
and then it's actually so much easier, and like you said, you find stuff that you actually end up liking, and so you don't miss the other stuff after a while.
Exactly. And there's always a better option. Just take the time to look into your options, look around, do some research, and it'll change. Things will change, and your brain will be like, I really want that piece of cake, but I can go this route, and you'll still get that sweet tooth, but it's a better option for me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think too, like, for other people who, you haven't made a change yet and you feel anxious about it, like for instance, when I was trying to make changes, it was like scary, the idea of making that change permanent, because I felt like, what if I'm not happy though? Like, what if I don't like that food, or I don't like not having the food that I'm used to having? But you don't have to view it as like a permanent thing. When I
Yeah.
finally decided to do a trial with taking dairy out of my diet, I put it off for like a whole year. Like, I kept knowing that my body wasn't digesting it well, but I love cheese, I love yogurt, and I just wasn't ready to like do this like, permanently. Just like, I'm not ready to do that. So finally, after like a year, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna actually do a trial for like 2 weeks, take it out and see if I can find other stuff to eat. And if it's just a total horrible mess and I can't find anything satisfying, and then I could just go back to eating dairy. And as it turned out, I found other things to eat, and it was a good choice for me at this time. And that made it so much easier by just doing it as a trial and then seeing what else I could find. And I realized, oh, this isn't as big a deal as I thought it was.
And
So
I think that's what a lot of people don't do is they don't want to expand. I'm the pickiest eater in the world by all means. Like I said, I don't like vegetables. I don't enjoy them. But I've branched out, and I think a lot of people are scared. They're like, well, that's something I'm not used to, or my family's not going to eat that, and people are going to look at me. No, try it. See how your body reacts to different things. I never in a million years thought I would like cauliflower. My family looked at me like I was crazy.
yeah,
And now I've got heads and heads of lettuce or heads of cauliflower in my fridge now. It's
yeah,
just try it. It's the big thing.
right, yeah. It's like with kale. Me and kale. I used to hate kale. And then I don't know how many heads of kale in salad I've eaten in the last year, but I probably kept at least one grocery store in business. So, what are some of the main things that feel different for you? I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit, but as far as from being overweight, how it felt, just like living your life that way versus now, what are some of the main things that feel different to you that you appreciate?
My family. I'm able to keep up with my kids. That's a huge difference for me. Before, like I said, I was at a very low point, so I would sit on the couch and I'd just watch them play.
Yeah,
And now I'm right there out there with them. I'm running out in the backyard, or, and they're seeing me make these changes in myself, which is a huge motivator for me. The first thing they say is, "Hey, mom, are we going to go to the gym?" Or, "Hey, mom, are we going to go run around at the park?" And that's a really good feeling that they're enjoying hanging out with me because I'm actually able to keep up with them.
that's great.
Um, but yeah, I think that, and having the energy when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like,
Yeah.
I don't feel defeated before I even start. I've got a purpose now, and I can actually go do stuff, and that's nice.
Yeah, those are nice thoughts. I was thinking you probably lost like however much your three kids weigh together, you probably lost them in your weight. You could
Ah,
probably
right about
pile
there.
them all on your back now, and that's about how much you weighed before.
Pretty close.
Well, why don't we just talk a little bit now about phase three? So you did some like month-long phase threes. How did those go for you as far as stabilizing or what you ate?
At first, it was kind of tricky trying to figure out what my body would accept and what my body didn't want to accept. But I was patient, and I think that was a big key for me. It was like, well, I'm going to take it day by day. I'm going to change one thing at a time and see, hey, my body likes this or hey, it doesn't like this. But I've been very fortunate. Almost everything has gone really well. I love the plants that I have found. Like I said, I've done some research and stuff, and I'm eating my food. I'm going, this is delicious. Where has this been my entire life? And that's a huge motivator for me.
Great.
Um, but I think I'm going to continue on that for a while. My calories I don't keep track of hardly at all because I am working out so much. I do think I have a higher calorie count than most people on P3, but it's working for me. So
That's great. And did you say you have a Pinterest board or something where you get recipes or?
I do. I need to separate it into an hCG category because I have stuff from prior to
Oh,
hCG that
gotcha.
I'm kind of like, why is that on there still?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, Pinterest is great for getting phase three recipes. I'll at least put a link to my P3 board. Maybe I'll go look at hers and pin some of hers then that are P3. Or if you ever get it divided out, let me know and we'll link to yours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because it is nice, like you said, to have variety. And sometimes you, like you said with the cauliflower, you wouldn't have known that you liked it. So sometimes it's like getting those ideas from Pinterest helps you open up your mind to things you wouldn't have known about trying. People are so
Yeah.
creative with food,
They
but I'm not
are.
one of those people, so I have to get my ideas from somewhere else.
I am incredibly picky, and I was absolutely dying for pizza. That is my go-to. And I saw somebody made it with cauliflower, and I was like, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "Well, it's cauliflower. I don't know." And I tried it, and I was like, I sent my family messages. I was like, "You have got to try this." And they said, "You're crazy." And I said, "No, you have to try it. It's amazing." So
So that was the one with the cauliflower crust.
it is cauliflower
Well, I haven't
crust.
actually made that, so it was really good, huh?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, okay.
Definite plus. And it's a lot easier to make than, it looks scary on there, but again, patience and just a little bit of research and you can get things done.
Gotcha, cool. Well, just last question then, as far as kind of like maintaining now. So are you still eating mostly phase three, or have you added in any carbs?
Um, Very little carbs. I try to stay away from carbs because that is just one thing my body it just doesn't want to do. I do a lot of shakes, protein shakes and stuff, which have a little bit of carbs into them. And like I said, the cauliflower does have a little bit of carb in it and stuff. And once in a very blue moon, I'll have like a sweet potato or something, and that has a little bit into it. But I try to stick with protein and vegetable mostly.
Well, yeah, just real clean then.
Yeah, and I don't really do fruit that much. I'll do a banana occasionally, but I just don't do the apples and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I venture out, but I keep with the same ingredients to the different recipes.
gotcha.
So,
As far as like your fats go, what type of fats do you include in your diet?
salmon. I pretty much have salmon every other day just because
Oh,
I
like,
absolutely love it.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Uh, that's typically my go-to, or I'll put like coconut oil in my coffee and stuff just for a flavor change and just a little bit of boost.
Yeah, very good.
Hmm.
I had forgotten too. Did you end up having shakes on P2 as well?
I did have shakes on
That's right.
P2.
What shake was it, or I forgot?
I went with Fitness for one.
Okay.
I also went with the lean shakes,
Shake.
and I also went with Shakeology. I just kind of mixed it up.
Okay, cool. So you
Um,
would have those in replace of a protein on occasion, or?
Yes. Pretty much after a workout, especially if it was a harder workout, that would be I typically work out in the morning, so that would be my lunch. It would
That's
be a
cool.
replacement. So,
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I mean, I'm glad to hear that because a lot of people ask me about the shake thing, and I haven't had tons of feedback on it, on how it works. So it's cool to know that that worked okay for you.
yeah, I looked for calories, of course, and then I looked at carbs. That was my big thing. I don't want any sugars, and I want as little carbs as possible. That was definitely the way to go.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing all of your personal details with everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I hope everything. I mean, you're done. You're good, right? Are you trying to lose more, or are you
Oh no,
healthier?
I'm done.
You're good. So you're just working out, getting strong.
Yeah, at this point, I don't really care. I'm just wanting to get my strength up, so I'm doing a lot of weights and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. It's a huge difference for me.
That's great. Cool. Well, thanks so much for